you know what else is not working? AOC's attempt to frame herself as a victim because people, when she was a waitress, used to tip her a lot of money, right? I mean, you saw this, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you guys, I have to read this to you. This was a doozy. The ability for these people to be victims, no matter how wealthy and powerful they are, is honestly impressive. Like, I'm impressed at this point, AOC. Like, you seem to have been incredibly privileged throughout your life, and yet you will always find some way to talk about yourself. So she's responding to somebody on Twitter that says, "What are your best and worst food service industry stories?" And they tagged her. So she was in the food industry before she miraculously ended up in Congress. Just total overnight success story. She said, "Oh gosh, there's literally an endless supply here. I have some really weird stories. One time, there was this really rich guy who would come in 1 week a year and was really addicted to mansplaining. You could just tell he got satisfaction from it. He loves to say, 'Ask me a question,' and include all these little asides to belittle the server and uplift himself. Anyways, if you indulged him, he'd tip like $200 to $300 on a lunch tab every day for a week straight and then disappear for the next year." Like, that sounds fine to me. I mean, I'm not even in the food service industry, but I just have to go talk to somebody and let them talk to me and mansplain to me for $300 an hour. I'll do it. What?
So let's just be clear. AOC was oppressed by the sexism here because of mansplaining, and because some guy wanted to tip $200 or $300 on a lunch bill
On a lunch
every day
tab.
for a week if you talked to him and just kind of flattered him a little and like, "Oh, tell me more about that." Every service person in America right now is thinking that she was lucky, not that she was oppressed or victimized, or that is some horror story of her time in the working class. Getting like what? Let's do some math. $300 times 5 days. Let's say she meant a work week. That's $1,500 she got on tips on lunch orders for chatting with somebody. And she's acting like that makes her a victim? I mean, I'm just always impressed by the mental gymnastics these people can go to, the lengths they can go to find a way to always be victims, to always look at the world as a story of how they're oppressed and how things are hard for them, even when the actual facts in front of them are really nothing of the sort. It's the same way they can say with a straight face that canceling student debt helps the poor when the facts show it helps the affluent, right? They can't be. I'm almost impressed. I almost want to give them a round of applause for how committed they are to the victimhood script that you really can't deter them from it. It's impressive resilience and determination. I will give her points for that.
It's also amazing to me just how much she hates men. I mean, honestly, we had men like this that came in when I waited tables too. And you know what? We fought over who got to have them as customers because one, they were lovely and they'd tell you stories. They were mostly just old and lonely and they tipped really well. And I just don't understand why you can't have a little bit more grace and kindness for somebody. Like, yeah, maybe he liked coming in and feeling like he got attention from a captive audience, and maybe that did make him feel important or smart for a minute, and he tips you really well for it, and that makes him a bad person. I mean, it's really just mean, actually. Like, sometimes you just need to indulge people. Sometimes people are just lonely. When I worked in all kinds of the service industry sectors, I was constantly struck by that, just how many lonely people were out there, how many people would come in and just like tell you like their deepest, darkest secrets. And I would just realize like these people have nobody else to tell this to. You know, they don't know who else to like confide in. They don't have anybody else to use as a sounding board. I found it really deeply sad. So I think this is interesting. Of all of her quote quote horror stories that she has from working in food service, this was the pits for her. It sounds like she had a much better experience waiting tables than me, because my pit was like kids throwing food at me, people stiffing me on a tip, getting yelled at because a steak wasn't cooked the right way. Like, I have some actual horror stories from waiting tables. This getting tipped well to talk to a man who wanted to feel smart for a minute would not be among them.
Yeah, and these are the same folks that love to talk about how privileged everyone is. If these are your horror stories, sounds like you were kind of privileged, AOC.
Yeah, I don't think she's had too long of a road to hoe.